twins left. Check zone, check zone. All right, we're going to get Brown, 570, wide curl on 2.
4-3 stack, smash strong. Open cannon, Mike Pop. Hello and welcome to The Huddle. I'm your host, JT Thomas, broadcasting live from Saberton Station. We're here every Wednesday from 6 to 7. If you don't catch me then make sure you check me out on thedpost.com. Look on the football section. Guys, joining me this evening here at Suburban Station, we have a good friend of mine, Mr. Alec Shook, 1989 to 1991. Sitting next to Alex for the first time, we have my good friend Avery Big Tone Richardson, 1991 to 1992. On my left here, we have Scott Dixon, 1981 to 1984. Scott, you are a senior on the set today.
All right, thanks a lot.
Then we have my co-host from last season, Scott Jerko, 2000 to 2004. Gentlemen, let's break the huddle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All righty. Guys, as we all know, this is an off week for the Mountaineers. However, we were certainly thinking about the Mountaineers in football up until this point. It is Maryland week. However, let's do some rewind and talk about where the Mountaineers are right now. You know, right now we're 2-0, starting the season off
2-0
against two teams that we thought should be easy, and for the most part they were. Tom, what did you think of that GSU game?
Well, you know what? One thing I wanted to identify with WVU is that I want to see a pass rush. You know, being a defensive lineman and being a guy that played under Coach Galavis, I want to see him get after the quarterback. And I think that will be a real big thing this week, when we go against Maryland, is to get after the quarterback. Maryland has not given up a sack, so we got to get after Scott. Absolutely.
Right. Alex, what do you think about, let's kind of culminate this thing where we talk about GSU, let's talk about Liberty, and roll right into Maryland. What do we think up to this point after playing GSU and Liberty? How do Mountaineers fare out so far?
Man, how do we really know? How do we really know, given the competition that we've played to this point? I mean, these are fine teams in their division, but it's a whole new ball game starting Saturday with the Maryland Terrapins. They're going to have athletes at every position to match ours, man for man, and I think this is where we start finding out what our team is all about in this stretch coming up. We don't know after playing these FCS teams, and I know Georgia Southern, they're a new, what do we call them, Division I team now or whatever.
Right.
But it's lesser competition, so I don't think we know about the Mountaineers. We've seen some encouraging things, and we've seen some things that are not so encouraging. We're going to find out starting Saturday.
Yeah, these are basically warm-up games to this week. These are basically practices, not showing too much of our offense, not showing too much of our blitz packages. These are basically fine-tuning to get ready for this weekend.
I think it's going to be interesting coming off of the rest, and I think the Mountaineers having a great opportunity to rest up and get a little healthy. I think our intensity level is going to be up a whole lot more better than it has been. But when you play Mountaineer football, it's impossible not to be psyched up and be ready for the Terps, because the Terps automatically kind of throws you into a whole nother type of a mindset and flow. It's almost like playing Penn State for the first time,
Yes,
so I think at some point here, I think it's time for us to really fire off the ball this week here and kind of punch them in the mouth early, see what happens, get some penetration on defense, and just play high-intensity defense football. We need to play football this weekend.
And I think that's where we are in terms of a team. I mean, as you just mentioned, Scott, warm-up games. Although, when I think about that first game, I think it was a different style of offense that the coaches talked about in terms of how much they had to prepare for this triple option. The Mountaineers did quite well. I thought they did quite well in preparing. Then we get a team like Liberty that was pretty traditional, more like some of the Big 12 teams we'll see for the remainder of the year. We did fairly well. The one big thing, though, was we got a little test in regard to the secondary. Secondary got tested a little bit, and I think it was at the right time, because going into Maryland, we're talking about a different beast. Throw the records out the window. Just like those old Miami games. You remember those Miami games?
Miami was a very talented team. But one thing I look at Maryland, they got receivers. And Maryland's a tough team. And Maryland is the team that is our new rival. Pitt's not there no more. Virginia Tech's not there no more. But Maryland has been there. And we have played Maryland. Sometimes we fared well, sometimes we have not. So we got to go out there and play ball. No question about it.
Audience.
They gonna play.
Artists, while we have Tony here talking,
Yes,
I want to throw some facts out about
brother?
Mr. Tony Richards. Born out of Long Island, New York.
sir.
Spent 4 years in the U.S. Navy.
Yes, sir.
Currently runs a positive experience youth football camp.
Yes, sir.
Tony's also been here in Morgantown for about 20 years. 20 years to see you've been here 20 years, and we are so affectionately call him Big Tone for obvious reasons. Tone played defensive line here at WVU, and certainly certainly interested in his insight. In fact, Tone, this is the kind of stuff that we talk about in regard to people always wanting to know about Mountaineer football. But don't let me stop there. We got new people on the panel. I should have did this from the start, but it's never too late. I'm going to talk about Mr. Scott Dixon, 1981 to 1984 from Canton, Ohio. He's a 4-year letterman for the Mountaineers. Most recently was inducted into the Shrine Hall of Fame in Canton from McKinley High School. Also, Scott is boasts that he has been a part of 4 bowl games.
There you go.
The Peach Bowl, the Gator Bowl, the Hall of Fame Bowl, and the Blue Bonnet Bowl. Scott made it a point to make sure, Jay, I was a part of those 4 bowls.
It's a great run.
Absolutely. And as I said earlier, my good friend Scott Jerko and I both started here last season, and we talked about there's a little table in front of us, and we certainly came a long way from sitting in a little corner to now being before you today. Scott is a 4-year guy here from Morgantown. One thing about Scott that I want to point out, he is a Irie E. Rogers Award winner for outstanding leadership, academic, and football achievement. He recorded 222 tackles in his career, in his 4-year career. Scott, I will tell you, I had 220 in 2 seasons. and I dare not forget my co-host, Alex Shook, who's been with me since day one, since we started here. Certainly got some interesting things that I learned about Alex. Alex is a CAFA scholarship team. He is the winner of the Ideal Mountaineer Award, West Virginia football. That award stands for, it is presented to the player who shows a positive attitude, solid academic standards, outstanding leadership and perseverance on the field and outside of athletes, and good citizenship. Also, he is winner of the Louis Mazel Award, is a member of the football team who maintained the highest grade point average on the team. Guys, that's something to be spoken about. Absolutely. Alex, I didn't know you were that smart.
I'm that came with a $500 check, too.
Is that right?
Robert Bird gave that to me, yeah.
Robert Bird gave that to you. That's all right, guys. It's so important for us to highlight when Mountaineers do well, and Mountaineers do it well, certainly academically. Guys, let's get back into this thing, man, and chop it up and talk about football.
Okay.
Scott, coming off those two wins, do we have much to look forward to in terms of our season?
Oh, of course you do. When you're undefeated, you're still in the playoff picture.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter about what's in the second column, as long as your first one has 12 at the end of the year, or 13 for some teams. I mean, this here is a whole new ball game now. I mean, last year was kind of different because Ohio State snuck in with 1 loss, and then look what happened. I think there's going to be a whole lot of talk about going to 8-team playoff here shortly. Okay. But regardless, back to the question at hand.
Yeah,
I get off talking.
No, it's all fine, but this is how we talk about football.
Scott got us in the playoffs.
He did. He got us in the playoffs. Week three. That's awesome. So Scott Dixon, talk to us about, as I mentioned, we came off with 2-0, heading to Maryland. How do you feel about our team? As Alex just mentioned, there's nothing to write home about this early, but there are some promising things that we saw about our team. What do you feel about?
One of the things that I'm really excited about in terms of the Mountaineers is that we got 9 players coming back out of 11 players on defense. Which really gives us an advantage. These guys are playing together. There's great continuity there. They have an opportunity to fill each other's off, But I think it's important now for us to really start focusing on the fact that, one, you got this William Likely guy, who's a cornerback. He led the big team in interceptions last year. And he could be a threat, you know, watching, you know, Thompson. Those guys, they haven't run under the ball very well against that type of defensive back. But hopefully, you know, we can keep it in and keep it boxed in. If a guy like that, you know, who can come up and make big-time plays, we're talking playmakers here. Maryland has a playmaker defense. They got some great inside linebackers. They got some great cornerbacks. But I believe that West Virginia is a great ball club. We can play with anybody in the country. There's nobody, once we get in the flow of where we need to be, no one can beat us. And I believe that right now, Skyler, you know, he comes on the court and he's on point. I believe he's going to throw that ball to Jordan. Everybody's going to be on where they need to be. So I'm looking forward to a great game.
Speaking of Skyler, you know, I think you mentioned it. Someone mentioned that he has not thrown an interception in these last 3 games. Let's start talking about, well, it'd be 4 or 5 games. From the bowl game, has not thrown an interception yet. In fact, he seems to be playing with a lot more confidence. He is ready. We think he's ready. I mean, everything that I've been hearing, this kid is ready for Maryland. He is ready to play football. I'm very excited about what Skyler will offer in upcoming weeks. Let's talk about another guy, because I want to get prepared. Us defensive guys, and you know, us 4 defensive guys, we ready to get after you. You know, we're ready to talk about Maryland right now. But I'm gonna back up a little bit and talk about offense in terms of some of the guys we got for the Mountaineers. Javante Durant, that's the kid out of Florida, the receiver, true freshman, comes in and is a contributor to this football team. Alex, you spoke very highly of him last week. What do you think? What do you say to a guy, a young freshman guy, that's preparing to go in the border rival for the first time?
I think he's going to be ready to play. It's definitely, like Scott said, going to be a different level of intensity, a different level of football player. Will Likely is a big-time Division I cornerback who's had a number of interceptions last year, led the Big Ten in interceptions, I think you said. Fantastic special teams player as well. You know, he's a real threat. He's going to be not intimidated by Jovan Durant. He's going to be in Jovan's face. So we're going to see how Jovan reacts to having a big-time Division I cornerback up in his face, jamming him for the first time, and see if he's ready to step up on this stage. Because let's face it, you know, Georgia Southern, Liberty, it's a different ball game. And you have Will Likely out there, and there are other cornerbacks and veteran guys. Well, Maryland's secondary is tough. I mean, they're going to present some new challenges to our receiving core, who I think, you know, are untested against this level of competition.
Right.
You know, JT, I want to chime on that real quick. You know, one of the things I want to talk about is that you know, the receivers running their routes. You know, one thing when I watched Kevin White last year, you know, you got to run routes.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what this young guy Gibson, you know, against these experienced DBs from Maryland, you got to get open.
Right.
Let's go.
Right.
Maryland's for real.
Right.
I mean, they're good, and they got a good head coach. You know, he was at UConn. You know what I mean? He played in the Big East. We are very familiar with the Big East. It's not going to be as easy as we think. I think those 2 games we played, you know, you say warm-up games or tune-up games, but the Big 12 is no joke.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So I don't know how it's going to go. Right. I'm on the fence right now.
Well, this game's against the ACC opponent against, Big Ten. Are they in there?
They're Big Ten now.
They're Big Ten now.
Big Ten now.
Yeah, but this game's, you're talking about wide receivers against cornerbacks. This game's getting won at the line of scrimmage.
Right.
This game is the offensive lineman. This is getting Wendell Smallwood, getting Russell Shell into the game early and setting the tone. This game, it may come down to a few points running up and down the field, but early on, this game's going to be set at the line of scrimmage from the get-go.
It's true.
But throwing the ball opens it up, though. You got to be able to throw it to run it. I mean, right? Get them safeties out of the box, right? I mean that's just football. I mean, Shell, Smallwood, I like those guys. I think they're aggressive. I see Shell a lot. I think he's a big-time player. But you got to stay healthy.
Right.
You got to stay healthy.
And Tone, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to break it right there. Certainly, you definitely got to stay healthy. So I want people to be healthy and come on down here to Suburban Station. As of right now, we're going to host you know, as I mentioned last week, we're starting to do this deal where we do trivia questions. We want to ask you about Mountaineers. And here's my first trivia question for anyone in the audience. And you know, every time we do this, we give something out. This is the tough one. Make sure you put your thinking caps on, because this is one that's really relevant because we're playing Maryland. What is the name of the kicker, the current kicker for the Mountaineers? The name of the current kicker for the Mountaineers.
Is that place kicker or?
Place kicker. Extra point. He's good at kicking extra points.
I think I know that.
Place kicker. Current name of the kicker. Josh Lambert. And Coach Hogerson never likes to talk to him. Never likes to talk to him. No, he never likes to talk to him. But last year against Maryland, he proved to be. We got a winner. We got some money. We got a name. All right, don't be afraid.
Josh Lambert.
Josh Lambert, you are correct. See, a lot of you guys been hanging out with Coach Hogerson, and you don't want to talk to Josh. But Josh may win us a game or two. For your answer, ma'am, we're going to give you one of these cozies. And I'm going to tell you guys, make sure you come down here at Saberton Station every Wednesday from 6 to 7. And as I mentioned, if you don't catch me here, make sure you check me out at thedpost.com. Now, if you don't want to see me, you know, and you worry about me not doing well, you can always send me an email. Send it to inthehuddle@thedpost.com. inthehuddle@thedpost.com. Guys, let's get back into it.
Yes,
this is what we're here for.
Yeah.
You sent me a text earlier. You said, I'm ready to talk football.
I'm talking football. You know what? You know, I'm riding off of
Okay.
Mr. Tony Richardson.
Yes,
you
sir.
know, Shell Smallwood, fast, got a lot of energy coming out of that backfield.
Yes, sir.
But you know, one of the things I found out, even that this is his first year as defensive coordinator, Coach Keefe. And one of the things I'm finding out about him is that he shifted the defense from a 3-4 to a 4-3 defense this year. And I'm not sure how we're going to run up against that. But I think that, you know, for the first time, running against a 4-3 is a whole lot different than running against a 3-4. We got a little bit more pressure on the line. You know, our biggest thing is our guys are going to have to really stand in the gap, and we're going to have to probably execute a little bit more better in terms of firing off the ball, because we want to see if we can get that penetration. Those guys got to break the line of scrimmage in order for us to move forward. Because certain things Scott's saying, we got to move forward. We got to gain some yards, and we got to move the football.
You
Man.
know what
We
I'd
gotta
like
move
to
the
do? I
football.
want to break down what he just said here. He makes a valid point, great point. He's talking about our offense competing against a 4-3 style defense. Kind of, when we haven't seen that yet for the most part. GSU play a funky defense. As I mentioned earlier, Liberty was a little bit more traditional. However, Maryland knows they have to play in the Big Ten. They have a defense suited for the Big Ten, which will be quite different for our receivers in terms of how they're going to play. You know, in regard to how likely might play some of these guys, might be bump and run, might, you know, in regard to defense, that's something we have not seen. Scott, tell me, how is our offense going to approach, you know, from practicing against a 3-3-5 type defense on our practice time to being able to play against a Maryland Big Ten 4-3 type defense?
Well, if you look over the past couple of years, the teams that have given us fits on our offensive side are the bigger teams. I mean, the bigger teams like Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, they've given us fits these past couple of years. That's why I said this game is going to be won up front.
On the line of scrimmage.
On the line of scrimmage. But like you're saying, it's reading your keys, knowing who to block, when to block them. It's helping getting off that first guy, getting to the second level.
You know, the guy's that's going to help this young guy, and you know, and I hate to sound like he's not here in this conversation, because he certainly is, Shelton Gibson. That may be the guy that can help this young guy, Javon Durant, and as well as Shelton Gibson, Da'Keil Shorts. You know, both of those guys, Da'Keil Short played a little bit more than Shelton did last year. It's going to take that combination of three guys to prepare the young guy to get ready for this ball game. Alex, what do you think about that?
Well, definitely all three guys are going to have to be involved in the passing game. It's going to have to be a total team effort. I think what I'm interested to see is if we're going to be able to run the ball, because I don't think we've been able to run the ball with the authority that we need to be a dominant football team against two inferior teams. And we're going to have a better opponent on the other side, a meatier opponent on the other side. There's bigger teams. They're going to have bigger players, better players at every position than the other two teams we face. So I'm interested to see how we can line up and run the ball. If we're going to be able to assert our will when they know we're going to run the ball in running situations, are we going to be able to push them off? I don't care if they're in a 3-4, 4-3, whatever. It's still going to be a hat on a hat in those running situations. You got to be able to beat your man up front.
Right.
If you don't mind, JT, where's the tight end now? I played with Alex. Alex was like an ace-back type. You know what I mean? Cody Clay. I mean, we got to give him the ball.
Right.
I mean, tight end is a quarterback's best friend.
Right.
You know, short passes over the middle. You know what I mean? everyone keeps telling me about the wide receiver game. I get that.
Right.
But what about the tight end game? We had tight ends here, Anthony Beck, that went to the NFL. Right. We got to use that.
Right.
I mean, I think we get so caught up on throwing that deep ball to Kevin White and the other gentleman that's at Cincinnati Bengals. What about the tight end play?
Right. I tell you what, Tone, that's a good point.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Instead of asking me, you can ask them. And why I say it, because guys, really think about what's going on right here. This is what former players talk about. These are the conversations we have at the tailgates. These are the conversations we have in our break rooms. People ask us these questions. And for Tone to ask the question, obviously these are the kind of questions that are on the minds of you fans and us former players. To answer that question, the tight end has all but left college football.
They're always open. They're always open. Tight end's always open. Alvin's always open. In the pros, they open.
You know what? You know the phrase that we constantly hear is this air raid or the spread offense.
Move the ball.
For the most part, that pushes a blocking tight end out, right? And causes him not to. You know, I'm not sure we're going to be getting any tight end signings anytime soon.
We have one on our team, though.
We do. We do have a tight end.
We got a couple of tight ends. But I think that's the one thing, you know, you can't get caught up on what everybody else doing.
Right.
You got to do what you do. You know what I mean? I'm from the old school. You know what I mean? I play smash mouth football.
Tone, I want you to look in that camera and tell Coach.
Smash mouth football. You know what I'm saying? Fullback, tight end, big lineman. Let me tell you something. When I went to school here, when you was on the mountain there, you knew football players. You can look at them and see them. You go to the mountain there now, you can't tell who's the football players. You can't tell from the soccer players, from the basketball players. You know what I mean? When you was there, you got John Ray, you got Mike Compton, original stuff. You had monsters out there. Rich Brown, you know Richie, University High School guy. So, I mean, football has changed, but I'm going to do what I do. I'm a Coach Nealon guy.
Right.
I'm a right guy with throat. You got to come up here and stop.
Right. So let's back up for a second. I want to just, because I kind of, last week, and Alex, I kind of bragged about it because I made a recommendation. And that's why I told you to say it to the camera, because I made the recommendation to the camera and to the fans and to the coaches. I said, run the bootleg. Run the
boot waggle.
The boot waggle, yeah. I call it the boot and waggle. And I'll be darned if we didn't run that boot and waggle and score.
Okay.
So, Coach, you just heard it from Big Tone Richardson.
Absolutely.
Big Tone Richardson said, hey, get that tight end involved in our passing game.
Absolutely.
We see, as defensive players, we see that there's an opportunity there. So we want to certainly exploit this. Quickly, guys, I want to give a little background, a little history on this Maryland West Virginia game, because we've blown past my intro in terms of talking about the old stuff. But as aggressively as defensive players are, I want to share with you a little bit about the Mountaineer series. Currently, we are 27-22 versus the Terrapins. So hopefully the Mountaineers will keep that tradition going. Last year, we won the game 40-37. Clint Trickett threw for over 500 yards. And that game in particular, out of all the games we played, there was a lot of talk about that game having over 108 plays. The Mountaineers had the ball for 108 snaps. In fact, I think we said on this show, that was probably one of the most balanced in terms of statistical games that the Mountaineers had played in a very long time. So again, that's something that I wanted to drop on you guys in terms of the matchup, the history in terms of how many offensive plays. And I think you made light of that last season about how we ran 108 plays and how that takes toll on a ball club.
Oh, just on the defense, you control the clock. If you're running their offense, I mean, just looking over at the pace that our offense runs, I mean, it's hard for defenses to get. You're looking over, see what play. Do I have blitz? Nothing. I mean, it takes a lot from a collegiate athlete to break down the offense and what all plays they can run. The faster you can run a play, the less time they have to diagnose what's going on.
Sure.
You might have a breakdown in coverage. You might have a misread or something. Then you find a gap. You hit a seam. It takes a toll.
And if you think about that, I keep saying you think about that because I start thinking about how that opposing team had to feel when WVU is running guys on and off the field as fast as they do. And at the time they had Kevin White, You know what I mean? This kid, that's a kid, you got to spend half your daggone practice figuring out how you're going to guard this kid.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Let alone you got, young guys in our running game for the most part, I thought was better suited last year. So, Scott, the question you posed in terms of how good we got to be against Maryland is a very valid point. Let me ask you this question, though. Coach Randy Edsall. Randy coached at Connecticut. We've gone up there and we lost a game there and they won a game here. How are we going to beat Randy Edsall playing them here in Morgantown this week?
Well, I think first of all, we're going to have to attack early because Randy, of course, in his 5th year, he's already got a total of 94 of 100 wins in his career record. And one of the things I'm finding out at the last 20 over 30 that Randy he's a successful coach, but if you can take away, just the intensity from him and just take away that confidence, I think we're gonna have even a greater chance to put that baby to bed. But at some point here, we know that Maryland plays hard-nosed football, and they're going to play fourth-quarter football. They're going to come in and they're going to swing. They've always been a team that always try to fight to the end, but we already know that's what we do here at Mountaineer Stadium. We're going to fight till the last minute, until that clock runs out. We're going to play hard-nosed, right-in-your-face football. But in order for Coach Ed, in order for him to get the edge, I think that in order for us to get the edge, we're going to have to take it away from him early.
Right.
I think we're going to have to win those first 2-3 quarters, and we're going to have to do it real quick, and we have to put some points on the board, and then we're going to have to really come off the line and play some great hard-nosed football on defense, because we know that defense will win games, but we know that the special teams is going to probably be the thing that's going to probably seal the whole game. And I heard that we already know that this Brad Caddick is supposed to be a pretty good kicker, so we want to make sure, man, that we take away everything we can on special teams and we get out there and fly around and play some football. But I think we got a great chance of winning and a 100% chance of putting these guys to bed early.
Right. Alex, you mentioned last week about the quarterback situation for the Terrapins. They got a young quarterback. Well, it's not a young quarterback. It's a guy who was sitting on the bench a week ago, now at the starting position. Played South Florida last week, threw for over close to 300 yards. However, he showed that he's susceptible to being intercepted. In that game, I believe he had 3 interceptions. And for us, that bodes well because we know that his timing ain't down, his confidence level. We don't know where it is right now, so we certainly want to take advantage of that quickly and often. And I'm sure, and I'm hoping, and I'm sure the coaches will apply pressure as needed. It's going to be very important that we get to the quarterback. What do you think about this quarterback? I mean, you called him out last week in terms of he's coming off the bench, he's starting. What do we think about him?
Well, he threw 3 picks, and I think that's going to be the critical part of the game, turnovers. And if we're better than this team on offense, we're better than this team on defense, on paper. We're better on both sides of the ball. Special teams and turnovers are probably going to decide this game if we lose this game. It's going to be because they've got a Lou Groza kicker. He's going to bang 3 or 4 long field goals. We're going to have turned the ball over a couple times, and Will Likely's probably ran a punt back and a kickoff back for a touchdown. That's the only way I see we losing this game if we turn the ball over. So, we win the turnover battle. This quarterback's shown the propensity to turn it over in the relatively short time that he's had against South Florida. We're better than South Florida. Skylar Howard's shown the propensity to protect the ball. So, we need to continue to do that going forward.
Well, Caleb Ray, he did throw for over 300 yards last week.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's still a lot, but this is their first away game. And Tony, tell us how it is playing at Mountaineer Field for the first away game. What's going through your minds as you're just starting off?
Playing at the Mountaineer Stadium is a definitely total unique experience. But I'm a little bit different what you guys are saying. Maryland ain't bad. I'm gonna tell you that right now, man.
We're not saying he's bad.
No, they're not bad. I watched them when they played last Saturday, and I sat there and watched them because I knew I was gonna be on the show. So I took the time and watched the quarterback. He made some bad throws, but he made some good throws.
Yes.
And I'm gonna go back to all you defensive guys. You know what I mean? If you don't get pressure, and you let a decent quarterback with time, he will kill you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't see a pass rusher out there.
Right.
I don't see a pass rusher. There's no Bruce Irving out there. You know what I mean? There's no Canute Curtis. There's no Gary Steels out there. You know what I mean? So who is our pass rusher?
Right.
You know what I mean? If we're gonna rush, that means we got to bring somebody. And when you bring somebody, you're leaving something open.
Well,
I love Carl Joseph. That's my guy.
Right.
He's a hitter.
Right.
He don't cut.
This bodes well for us though, because they haven't had a sack yet. They haven't gotten pressure yet. So,
Not yet.
when we bring pressure, we got to hit home.
Okay.
And say they threw
And
3
if we
interceptions without getting
and
hurt.
If we don't hit home, what happens?
They throw an interception.
Oh, they go interception. Okay, well, I hope so. I really do. I really do. I hope so.
Scott, I'm sure Scott
We
is,
got Jared Barber back too this week.
Is he back?
Yes, he's back.
Oh, great.
Hold on, Mike.
Scott statistically, I'm telling you, Scott goes in and look at those stats, and you see he throwed out those 300 yards, and I'm sure there was 300 yards. So Scott does a great job of going after that stuff. In regard to us getting home, and that's absolutely right, and Tony's absolutely right when he talks about our defensive line finding its identity.
Sure.
It is so important, because we hadn't heard much about our defensive guys yet.
Yeah.
But however, I think now, I'm sure, I'm absolutely sure now is the time. If that defense is going to do something, it has to be now. And so I'm looking forward to Saturday hearing some new names come out. A guy that I'm interested in hearing more of is Christian Brown.
Okay.
Christian Brown, yeah.
Christian Brown. Seeing Christian Brown up close and personal against Liberty, he got the foul, which was aggressive something. I forget what it was.
Okay.
But Christian Brown is another guy. But don't let me go on because I have to do a trivia question here.
Okay.
So let me get to my trivia question because again, oftentimes I get football in the brain and I just want to talk football. Remember, guys, I'm down here at Saberton Station. I'm here every Wednesday from 6 to 7. If you don't catch me on Wednesday, make sure you check me out on Thursday at thedpost.com. Here's my trivia question for you. And for me, as I mentioned last week, I like those multiple choice, but this time I'm gonna give you a true and false. I want you to listen carefully. Listen carefully. This statement: is there a redshirt freshman by the name of Javon Durant starting at receiver for the Mountaineers? I'm gonna give you that question again. Is there a redshirt freshman by the name of Javon Durant starting at receiver for the Mountaineers? True or false? For your answer,
There you go, baby.
There you go,
baby.
We got a
That's
little controversy
right.
there.
Right there.
We have a little controversy. We had one gentleman say true, and we had one gentleman says false. The gentleman who said false is our winner. Jawan Durant is a true freshman and not a redshirt freshman. So you will win here a cozy. And again, I want to thank you for coming down. We'll get that to you, sir. We'll get that right over to you. And listen, everybody's a winner. When you come down here, everybody's a winner. I got more stuff over here. I used to be a quarterback, so make sure you get your hands up. I'm going to throw some of these footballs. And now I got one over there in the corner. Oh, I still got it. I still got it. Here we go. Interception. Oh, pass block. That was a pass block. I got one more. I'm going to get it to the guy who blocked that one. Yeah. He must be a DB. Again, guys, I want to thank everybody for coming down. This is what it's about.
Sure.
As I mentioned early on at the beginning of the season, we want to bring back old players. Oh, shouldn't say old players. I would say former players.
There you go. I knew that was a good word for it.
We'll bring back former players, and we just want to talk about Mountaineer football. We've all been in the trenches. We know what it's like to be down there. More importantly, we know what it's like to be embraced by fans. So fans, come on out, come down to Saberton Station and join us every week, Wednesday from 6 to 7. Guys, back to it. Let's get back on topic and talk about our Mountaineers. We finished up with defensive line, but I know I've been bouncing around. I cannot move on without talking about our running game because that's the one thing that's been missing that we hadn't been able to get any traction on. Our running game. Last week we talked about Russell Shell not being as productive as he was last season. More so than anything, Wendell Smallwood seems to be the guy that is carrying the torch for us. Scott, what do we think about Russell Shell? Last season we talked about early on statistically 80% of the time we were driving down on the first series, scoring, putting the ball in Shell's hand. Now this season, he's not answering the door.
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's the wide receiver play of the big-time Kevin White that took so much attention that they're not paying as much attention to these freshmen. Like Tony was saying earlier, the passing game opens up the running game. But, I mean, Wendell Smallwood, he's averaging over 7 yards a carry. I mean, it's hard not to play somebody that does that. And another stat I wanted to throw out there, because I'm a stats guy, is why we're running the ball with the quarterback so much.
Right, good point.
I mean, he has the second most carries on the team. When you got Russell Shell and Wendell Smallwood, it's kind of concerning.
Right. We talked about that last week. In fact, you know, we saw it in this way though, in terms of options. Right, we have a run option with our 2 backs. We have now a pass option. We know we have 3 capable receivers. And now the bonus player that we have is our running quarterback in Skylar Howard. Although, Tony, you're absolutely right to say it's dangerous. We don't want him doing this as much as he has, but that option is there. It's something that we think will, and I think will be a bonus for our team. I do. I think it'll be a bonus for our team. Yet it's something that we can't. We don't want to hang our hat on. He's not Pat White.
Okay, well let me throw this at you. Don't worry about the small. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I see Shell, I see Smallwood. You know, I work for the university. I get a chance to see those guys. They're not big guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then we seen last year that they give the ball up.
Right.
They do turn the ball when they get hit. We defensive guys. I mean, Dixon, yourself, and this gentleman here, offensive guy. When you get what scares you as a defensive guy is a power back.
Right.
He weigh you down.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those guys are scared.
Right.
Because you know sooner or later I'm gonna get shot on.
Right.
They ain't gonna give it up.
Right.
Shell gives it up.
Right.
Smallwood gives it up. And that's just real talk. I mean, that's what they do. The whole idea is that who do we got to intimidate? What do we go on 3rd and 1? Who we give it to?
Right.
Who do we give it to on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2? Who's that smash mouth guy that we can give it to?
Right.
There's no Schmidt now. There's no Owen Schmidt no more.
Right.
So I mean, my question is, you know, when we get into, you know, short yard situation, who's that guy that's gonna come through for us? Right. Because that's gonna come up. You know, move the chains, keep the clock going.
There you go.
You know what
That's
I'm saying?
it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
what scared me as a lineman is that in the 4th quarter is a power back.
Need
He
a power
weigh you
back.
down, baby.
Yeah.
That's his football.
Yeah.
That's what you get worried about.
Right.
I'm not worried about Shell and
Yeah.
Smallwood.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
him.
know, Tom.
I mean, I
don't
like
know.
him. Don't get me wrong, them are guys, but they don't scare me.
Right. So this is what I think. This is what I think because you know, Russell Shell showed last season that he's a capable back.
When healthy.
You know, exactly.
When healthy.
Obviously, we haven't seen it yet, but I suspect he'll get it together. I think Alex, you mentioned last week about him just not catching traction yet. Sooner or later, I think he becomes a proficient player for us.
Yeah, I don't know. We talked about this a little bit last
Yeah.
week. Mountaineer football is about running backs.
Sure,
Right.
yes,
You
sir.
go all the way
yes,
back
sir.
into-
Adrian Morrell.
to
Yes,
years ago.
sir.
That's
Yes,
what
sir.
I'm gonna touch on right there.
Yes,
A.B.
sir.
Brown.
Yes, sir. Evan
That's what I
Colborn.
wanna touch on.
Yes, sir.
Amos, Avon.
Quincy Wilson.
The guys
Yes,
that you
sir.
could saddle up and ride and that would carry and dominate a game. And I haven't seen that
Thank you.
guy on this
Thank you.
team yet.
Thank you.
I was hoping that Shell, and I think everybody was looking for Shell to be that guy. He's a big guy. He can move pretty well, but he just seems to be a little bit off.
He's not as big
What's
as the
going
big
on?
guys. He's not a big guy. He's not as big as you were when you played.
Now, Tom, I want to say this. I want to say this.
210 pounds.
Yes, he's a big
On a
guy.
good day.
On a
On
good
a good day.
Let's talk about size. Let's go back and just wind the camera back to about 1981.
Yes, sir.
82.
Let's go there,
You know,
baby.
I mean, honestly, man, the running backs coming out of there was, you know, those guys were like 6'2", 6'1".
Bring it.
They was 246 pounds running a 4'5", 4'2".
Yes, sir.
And so you talk about Dane the Train Cogdale, you talk about Tommy Bowman, and you talk about Ron Wolfley. These guys, man, came off the end, and they were powerhouses.
And they fought
not to say
forward.
we're not now, but these guys come off the corner, they're going to make sure that defensive end, that outside linebacker know they're there. But we need somebody to carry the pipe. He got to be able to carry that pill 4 yards every time he checks the pigskin.
Sure.
He needs to be able to move the chains, as you say, Big
right.
Tone,
Yes,
and
sir.
we need to get down the field.
Yes,
now,
sir.
I'm telling you right now, I believe the game has converted to more of a faster. It's a powerful game, but it's not as powerful as it was back in the early 80s. Because, I mean,
everybody out.
to be honest with you, you were actually a fullback. So you were actually a fullback when we played. So So to see that type of speed and that kind of force coming towards you, either you're going to buckle up your chin strap and you're going to hit them with the right elbow, or you're going to get out the game, because these guys punched you right in the head. You know, and JT knows that when he played, those guys were not small. These guys were fast and they were big guys. And you know, man, you look at him and say, oh, were you playing on the line? No, this guy was playing in the backfield. And you thinking, man, do I got to hit this guy throughout the whole practice? But you kind of, you know, you understood the game and you realized you had to hit this guy every single play.
Sure.
So, you know, we're not talking about just a regular player. Even then, you know, you got, even Oliver Luck. Oliver Luck wasn't a small quarterback in 1981. You know, not to mention some of the other quarterbacks that we've hit up against. But, man, we're talking the game has definitely changed since 1981.
We don't recruit those guys. We don't recruit those guys anymore.
We don't recruit them
It hadn't
no
changed
more.
for Alabama. Look at their running back.
That's what I was going to say. How much of this is coaching? I mean, look at Hogerson at Texas Tech or Oklahoma State or Houston. He didn't have these big guys. He had to air raid offense, and we're still in a transition period of that.
Right.
I mean, I think it's transitioning from the Big East to the Big 12.
You know,
And we're still caught in that limbo period.
I want to hear
of
Scott
what
talk
we do.
about more of the guys from his era.
I mean, I'm
because
just,
that's when I grew up as a kid. I
Well,
didn't come here until 1987.
well, you know, honestly,
That's
when
the
the
golden
first time
era.
I seen Jeff Hostetler, man, I honestly thought
Big
he was
guy.
a tight
Big guy.
end, or you know, he was playing like maybe a short tackle. And when I knew he was a quarterback, I was like, man, I got to hit this guy. But at the same time, these guys looked you in the face. So you know, when we look at the Brian Josiaks and we look at the Jack Kesslers, these guys, man, this guy had a 52-inch waistline.
Sure.
You know, and his shoulders was almost 75
Like two
inches
guys,
long. Yeah, I mean, you know, he goes from football into pro wrestling. But you know, when we talk about this thing, you know, we talk about guys who, you know, we are athletes. Mountaineers have always produced a brand name of athletes, but I think the game has gotten a lot faster. You know what I mean? It's got a lot more. It's not as powerful as it was back then, because we went from size to power. Now it's speed to, you know, to a whole nother level of
Scott,
intensity.
let me say this. You know, why change what you are?
Right.
You are what you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you are what you are, just because everybody else changed, that don't mean I change.
Right.
I'm gonna do what I do to win ball games.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's the problem. Everyone get caught with the spread and everything score fast. Run it down their mouth.
Right.
Punish them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's football.
That's
You know,
football.
we getting caught up with, you know, you got linebacker. When JT played, you got linebacker 20 for Tim Brown, Steve Grant. Those
Yeah.
backers. That's
Yeah.
245, 250, bringing the heat. Linebackers now, 195, 200 pounds.
Yeah.
As a fullback, if I was a fullback in this thing, you
Yeah.
think I'm fearing that?
Yeah.
When I come up in there in
No,
the
I'm
fourth
not.
quarter,
No, yeah.
I'm not scared of those guys.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that falls forward. 3 and 4 yards. Smash mouth football at the end of the day. Look at Alabama.
Yeah.
You know, they don't. One thing I like about Saban, he don't get caught up with a whole lot of stuff. He get the big time players, big backs.
Right.
Ingram, Henry, big backs.
Right.
That's what he does. You know, Richardson, that was all Alabama. Big backs, fall
Tom,
forward, get yards.
Tom, let me bring you home because I want to
Bring
make
it home,
sure.
baby. Tell you what it is.
I want to make sure the fans understand. This is what we do, guys. I mean, here, the Mountaineers, former Mountaineers, we have a high expectation. No matter what our record was, you know, I sit back and I think about Scott. When he came here in 2001, it was Rodriguez's first year. I think that your season was 3-8 that first season.
Brutal.
Brutal first season. However, that expectation was always there. When Scott left the program in 2004, that team had flipped the script. I believe your senior season, you were 8-4. So that was certainly a nice transition. That is always the expectation. Also, I just wanted to really go over something that Scott said earlier in terms of when Maryland comes in, West Virginia, we like to fight. Let me talk about that, because I say this time and time again. We don't worry about who the coach is. You know, we're not really concerned about the coaches. We want to always see the players do well. One thing we are about our team is very, very passionate. And I've said this time and time again. Win, lose, or draw, we like to see a good fight. So when our Mountaineers go out there, we want to see them go to battle. And there's no doubt in my mind they will. They've consistently done it over the last couple of years, and I don't see it getting any going down at all. I expect for our players to be better. As you just heard from this whole panel, there's a high level expectation. And we certainly will look forward to seeing our guys do a lot better. Guys, I'm going to cut it off right there. We're going to move into our section where we ask the fans to ask us questions.
Sure.
Again, this is what it's all about. This is the premise of this show is about having people ask us questions. So with that, let me just remind everybody, we're down here at Saberton Station every Wednesday at 6 to 7. Guys, let's go ahead and open it up for questions. Any questions? And let me sweeten the pot. I'm going to sweeten the pot just a little bit. For every person that asks a question,
JT will give you $50.
$50 worth of koozies. $50 worth of koozies for sure. $50. And somebody just said we want footballs also. I got a couple more footballs.
Oh, you got some more.
So you got a question? Okay, sir.
Yeah, do you think they can utilize William Crest more than just a backup quarterback?
That's a good question. The question was, do the football team need to utilize William Crest a little bit more? Was that the question, sir? Good question, and I've seen that question coming for a while. What do you think, Big Tone?
You know what? I see William, come out of Baltimore. He's a running quarterback. He didn't throw it a whole lot at high school. He's very talented. I think it's how the game is dictated. You know what I mean? How you going to use him? Can he make those throws in Hogan's system? I think it's a big thing. But he's an athlete. He's a ball player. I think he can make plays. But I don't know, is he ready right now?
Right.
He's a baby boy right now.
Right.
So
Good answer.
I like that young man. Big boy.
It's Skyler's job to lose. He's played pretty much flawless in terms of turnovers, was very accurate in the last ball game, and he's going to have to mess up for Crest to get some time to come in there. I tell you, if we're going to be running the ball 12 to 15 times a game with the quarterback, I think we need to start looking at someone like Crest. He looks like he has some wheels, and he's a bigger, put-together guy to be able to take that kind of beating. Where I don't want to see Skyler Howard getting hit 12 times a game running the ball.
I agree. What you got for us, Scott?
Well, I think watching the second half when William Crest was in, I think he doesn't quite know the offense all that well.
Okay.
I think it was because if you look, he never really did a 5 or 7 step drop. It was as soon as he caught the ball, he was releasing the ball. Whether the coaches were calling that because they didn't trust that or something. That's just what I saw.
We're up big too.
What you got, Scott?
I think at anything, I think one of the things that's going to be real important, I think they have to utilize them regardless if they want to or not, because mainly because we need depth. We need depth. Anything will go on, any crisis that will take place, he has to be able to get this guy the ball and get him some experience, because if something goes wrong, he has to be able to make those sudden changes. And that's what we do at Mountaineer Stadium. We make sudden changes. And that means as soon as something happens, you got to be ready to put the helmet on, strap up, and get out there and play ball. And I think they need to start utilizing them a whole lot more than they've been.
Next man up.
I tell you, I use this phrase here, and I typically say this in youth football. There's always a question about playing time, right? So I always say, if there's an opportunity to play the kid, play him early so they won't hurt you in the end, right? So I guess my analogy here would be, there were some opportunities to play him in the latter part of the game when we clearly knew it was a blowout. I should say, I'll use this word safely and say we should at the very least consider playing him a little bit more minutes when we get those blowouts. I think that's what good teams do. I think Skyler's going to be fine, however, but you don't want to see the thing that happened with Trickett and the guy not being ready. So when we have an opportunity to answer your question, sir, when we have an opportunity to play a guy and get him ready and blow out games, I think we give him a couple snaps. So, sir, I got you a ball and I got you a cozy. We'll get you to you at the show. Thank you very much for your question. Next question. Don't be bashful. Don't be bashful.
I got one. I want to go back to Scott. I'm just fascinated with that era of Mountaineer football, because I think it really, we came from some depths prior to Neil and get there. Yeah. But since we're leading up to the Maryland game, talk about those Maryland games back in '81, 2, 3, 4. I mean, they had Boomer Esiason, right?
Yeah. Boomer Esiason and those guys were playing, and also even like that. Actually, man, those games are actually heartbreakers, to be real honest with you, because I remember my senior year, we actually was, and I'm not, just trying to, shoot off accolades, but even my senior year, we were picked to play Nebraska in the Sugar Bowl in 1984, and we were undefeated going into the Maryland game in 1984, and we actually lost that game And that was actually the beginning of us losing the last 4 games of that season, which took us from a major Sugar Bowl and actually took us into a Blue Bonnet Bowl. And there's a difference because Maryland was the breaking point for us. So to me, I don't like Maryland very well because of the memory that I hold with them going into that game. I think that I think Maryland, even then, they're kind of converting over to the same type of style in terms of the collegiate level of football, but I noticed they have a big front. They have a big front, and like their players are kind of a whole lot like WVU. I was just telling Scott, I said, man, this is a perfect matchup in terms of statistics, you know. But going back through those years, man, Maryland was big. They were really big. They were slow, but they were big. You know, they were far off the ball. But I'm gonna tell you something, man. I don't believe there was never, and probably Big Tone, you could probably vouch for JT for that, and even Scott, is that from my years of playing in the early '80s. Man, every time we played Maryland, man, we hurt them. They were physical. Yeah. We talking about a physical ball club that came off the line and punched you in the mouth. And even when we had the backyard, we had the brawls on the line, but these guys were so physical, man, coming out of Maryland that, man, we hurt for a week. Most of the time, man, it took us at least a week or two to just get adapted from Maryland. We hated to play Maryland. They were just so physical.
Let me do this because this was brought up. Scott, what's your most memorable Maryland moment? You guys play Maryland?
My most memorable was my senior year. We'd gotten throttled by them the year before twice in the same season, and the senior year actually went into overtime, and Chris Henry caught a slant pass for a touchdown to win the game.
That's right.
And
Big Slim.
that was
Big Slim.
Yep. And that was my most
Rest in
memorable.
peace,
Get the monkey off the back.
Rest in peace.
What do you got? You got a Maryland game?
No, you know what? I mean, watching it played against Maryland, seeing Maryland. I mean, tough ball club. You know, and I've been talking to people all this week. They saying, well, you know, it's an easy game against Maryland. You know what, JT? I don't know. You know, I'm a Mountaineer, no question. I'm a Giant fan. You know, your son's my baby boy. But the whole idea is that Maryland's going tough. They come in here, they ain't got nothing to lose. They don't come in and play.
Right.
And we're going to see what's going to happen. I hope we're ready. I think we'll be ready. But we got a lot of question marks. Right. You know what I mean? We can't just go back to that, throw it deep to the wide receiver and think that's going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Right.
We got to establish a running game. We're going to have to play defense. And they're going to make us play. This ain't Liberty. Right. This ain't Georgia Southern.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So we're going to see.
I'm going to go back just not to interrupt you, but Alex, I remember very vaguely, man, going into, actually it was 1982, we were actually in Maryland. So actually my most memorable moment was Boomer Esiason starting at quarterback. Of course, we know he was a sophomore. So I got in, Darryl Talley at one end, Jeff Seal at the other end in 1982. I was sitting on the sideline. I don't even think Coach Simmons knew what he did at that point, but at that moment, I remember it was raining real hard, and I just think he just looked around and said, "Get in there!" I think Darryl Talley went down and he was hurting. He was a consensus All-American. I ran in the game, and they had already snapped the ball. And I came off the end and hit Boomer Esiason. Didn't even know who he was, and hurt him. So I felt real good.
You should.
Broke that scapularis, but I was I never did it again, but that was my most memorable Kodak moment, man. I had a chance to hit Boomer Esiason and put some Mountaineer weight on him, you know. So yeah, that was a snap ball thing, but it was good. It was a good moment.
Good deal.
And
Do you have
Boomer
one,
is
Alex?
actually from my hometown, man.
Oh, is that right?
Central Islip. Boomer's from East Islip, and he was a legend.
Yeah,
he was a legend.
So I got a
No
piece
question
of him, so
about
I'm happy about that.
Good.
I'm just saying.
Short on. There we go. All right, what you got, Alex? You got one?
Just probably go right to 91, my
91.
senior season. Going down there, it was set up to be kind of a pivotal game. We were 2-1, and I think they were undefeated at the time, and probably ranked and favored against us, and went down and played Mountaineer football. Just pounded them the whole game. Adrian Morrell went off for about 160 yards. I think took off down. They scored on a long touchdown pass in the first drive, and that was it for them. We hammered them 35-7 or
Wow.
something.
So did you played a winning
Yes.
game? So am I the only person that did not beat Maryland?
Yeah.
I tell you, the 2 years I was here, 94 and 95, and I have to tell you, the oddest thing about it is the game prep for that game was just crazy. What we did, and I explained this to you guys, and you guys, defensive guys, will appreciate this. So Maryland used to have this tight end, and they would make him stand straight up, right? Typically, you got a offensive end that puts his hand in the ground, and he's looking to fire off and block somebody. But this guy would stand straight up and put his hands on his on his hips, and kind of take off from there, right? And I would be like, wow, what's going on? So the coach would, for this particular game, he took out the outside linebackers and brought up safeties. So you have a middle linebacker and 2 safeties who are playing linebacker now because they're worried about this being a passing threat.
Yeah.
And you know, they kept running off tackle, belly, off tackle, and we couldn't stop it. And I thought to myself, I said, crap, that tight end ain't he ain't no wide receiver. He just a standing up tight end. His job was no different than it would have been if he'd have put his hand in the ground. And yet we're playing at a disadvantage because we had safeties in there opposed to guys like Matt Tafoni and Puppet Wright. Because those were the guys on my team. Matt Tafoni and Puppet Wright, and they're sitting on the sideline. And we have specialty guys in there. Guys, I got to shut her down from here.
Okay, bro.
Got to shut her down. We've gone past our
Hour
time.
went by already? Oh, my goodness.
Time flies when you're having
That's
fun.
good.
But listen, I want to thank everybody for coming out again tonight. I certainly want to thank my guests. As you see, we have a full panel. This is kind of what it looks like. And again, I want to remind everybody to come check us out. We're here every Wednesday here at Saberton Station. We'll be here from 6 to 7. And if you don't catch me here, always go check me out at thedpost.com. If you want to give us a comment, have a question, or give a suggestion, make sure you send me an email at inthehuddle@thedpost.com. Guys, until next time, huddle up.